This interview is being tape recorded. My name is Paul Leary, and this is X Job Downloaded. And today I'm going to interview Mick Baker. Now, Mick is a former member of the military and went on to join with the British Police Service. Now, this is an unusual one for me because whilst I know very little about most of my contributors, I know absolutely nothing about you, Michael. So thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for taking part in this.
No, thank you. Thank you.
So my opening question is, where did it all begin for you, and what was your inspiration to join the military and then go on and join the police?
Okay, so as a kid, I always wanted to be a soldier. I just wanted to do that all my life. I watched far too many Vietnam War movies because that was the thing back in my day, as you probably remember yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I was that person that was the I wanted to be the soldier. I wanted to be a medic. That's what I wanted to do from very early on. You know, the person gets shot, shouts medic, you know, and that was me really, you know, put your bag on, run over and help someone. So that's what I did. So I grew up in, I'm born in Maidstone, but I actually moved to Ashford. So my formative years, if you like, were Ashford in Kent. And I went on a first aid course actually when I was, I had a girlfriend who lived opposite a British Red Cross sort of base or whatever you call it, and she worked later than me. So they did, I think it was on like a Wednesday night or something, like an hour. You could do a first aid course for free. So I thought, oh, that'll do, you know, I'll do a bit of that. And I passed that course, you know, sort of give me the bug if you like. And then at 17, I thought, well, I really want to join the military, but do I want to join full time? I don't know, you know, because it's a commitment. I mean, you've got to, you know, I mean, back in my day, it was at least 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I sort of, there was a TA base, in Maidstone, but they had a section at Ashford. And I thought, well, you know, I could join there. So they had a medical sort of bit there. So I joined them. Absolutely loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I remember actually a little funny for you, if you like. So when I was there, it was like 1991, and so you had the first Gulf War.
You did.
Remember that? And the base I was in, where this little section of medics were, I was only about half a dozen or something. It was a RAMC base, which are the Royal Electrical, Mechanical and Engineers. So it was trucks and stuff like that, you know, and fixing them up.
Yeah.
And they were spraying all these vehicles, you know, making them desert colour because if it was green, obviously.
Yeah.
And they were so scared that there was going to be what is now quite common, but then wasn't a thing, suicide bombing. And they really thought that was going to be a thing, so they wanted people to guard the front gate. And we were allowed to do that, even though it's a medical corps, you're not allowed to do that sort of thing unless it's a medical base you're defending.
Right.
But they sort of got around that and said, oh, you know, it's a few quid here. And I was 17, so it was like, yeah, all right. Because I was 17, they would give me bullets. So I was standing on with a SMG, which is a very old. Remember the Sten guns, like years ago in the Second World War? You know, it comes out, built one of them. And I stood there on my own, just letting vehicles in. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 17 years old with a gun with no bullets in it. I mean,
no bullets.
So, looking back now, but that's what I did anyway. So that was that. Anyway, I joined the military. I was a kid when I joined, obviously. I was a kid. I was an adult officially, I suppose. But joined that. Absolutely loved it. Joined the medical corps. I went to my basic training, was in ATR Lichfield up in Staffordshire.
Yep.
Weirdly, I actually won the Best Recruit Award. I think I got that by default, to be fair.
Why?
Because, to be fair, there was not a lot of us got through in our platoon, and the person that probably should have got it had a negligent discharge the day before on our final weapons test, and they couldn't give it to him, I think. So they pretty much, I thought, I mean, he should have got it. I mean, he really should, but I think I got it a bit out of fault. So, but it was a very proud day for me to get that, because, you know, you're marching out in front of, friends and family, and, you know, some general come down and give you awards on the parade ground, and, you know, in front of everyone. It was a good, massive pass out parade, and it was really good. So, enjoyed that. Went to Keogh Barracks in just outside Aldershot. Did my trade training, which is the medic training.
Yep.
That was full on. I mean, it was good, but it was full on. Yeah, it taught you a huge amount of stuff. That, I mean, I'll give the military, you know, a kick up the bum when I want to, but the military medical training was at the time really good. It was hench. It was pretty full on. So yeah, that was my posted through there to Full Field Ambulance in Aldershot, and yeah, that was my medical basis, if you like. So yeah, that's
fantastic. How long did you serve in the military?
In all 8 years.
Right.
But I transferred to the military police.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I was about 3-4 years in, I guess. Probably about 3.5, something like that. And I applied to be a. This is going to sound so weird. I applied to be a nurse.
No, I get it.
And it was purely because I was thinking forward, you know, thinking of where are you going from here, you know. And in the medical corps, you did some really advanced stuff where you were qualified for nothing.
Yeah.
Outside, I mean, inside, I mean, I could shove tubes down people's throat. I could sew people up. I could put, you know, intravenous drips inside you, but I couldn't outside. That didn't actually mean anything, weirdly. So I thought, oh, there was a program going around at the time where they were recruiting directly inside rather than outside, because they always got the medical people, nurses, doctors, etc., from outside.
Yeah.
And brought them in, then give them a lot of money and you know, use them. But I think there was a thing where they were sort of doing it inside, you know, and giving people within the armed medical service at the time, or within the military, opportunity to be a nurse. So I took the opportunity. I thought, yeah, I'll do it. So I went on attachment to the Dutch of DKMH. I think it's the Dutch of Kent Medical Hospital. I think it was in Catterick. Went up there. I got assessed, etc. And I managed to pass. So that was really good. Went back.
So did you become a fully fledged QA then?
No. This is where I went wrong.
Oh,
Excuse me. Yeah, so I went back to my barracks. Excuse me. And they pretty much treated me like crap because I was transferring out. So they put a lot of investment in me and didn't want me to go. So, but I didn't care because it was like, I can't remember what time of year it was, maybe June. And I started in the university year of in September.
right.
So I can put up with that, but you know, that's fine. So it's August coming on. I mean, I was doing crap jobs. I was always on guard, sweeping, you know, floors. It was crap. You know, all my friends were going off doing attachments here, helicopter ambulance and ambulances and all these great courses. And me, I'm sweeping a parade ground. So they're just punishing me. And I thought, you know, I can do that. And then I got called in one day by the training officer, who's actually, funny enough, a nurse herself. And she said to me, Captain, she said, look, you know, you still got it, not a problem, but we are putting it off for a year. So I was like, oh, you know, what am I going to do? Can I do this for another year? So that night, went back to my room. I thought I'd go and get myself a Chinese. So I walked downtown, having to think about stuff, you know. Can I do this for another year and do that? Or do I just go back into what I'm doing? Or do I do something else? And essentially, I walked downtown and there was a couple of military police cars that passed me on blues. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, you know, you don't really see it a lot. And I went downtown and basically it was a massive rock going down outside some pub. Just with them involved, the Hampshire police involved. It was just all going down. I thought, it's really exciting, you know, I wouldn't mind a bit of that. And I'm being treated like shite anyway. And also, the more I looked into it after that, because I did look into it, 160, which was a Provost unit just up the road from where I worked. I got an attachment there for a week and absolutely loved it. I mean, it was just amazing, you know, going around and doing what they did. They were the para provost at the time, so they were the parachute police. But I mean, it was good. I enjoyed that, really loved it. And then applied to join the military police. So joined them in in '96, I think it was. Yeah. So
What section did you go to?
Sorry.
What section did you go to?
Initially, I went to Chichester to do my training.
Yeah.
I finished that, and they posted me straight out to Northern Ireland. So I spent 2 years in what was 176, Provost Company in Londonderry, and that changed to 8 BPU. And then the piece was all coming in at that sort of time, and it got closed down actually. So yeah, they kept us there for a little bit longer than they probably should have done. But yeah, I spent just over 2 years there.
Oh wow! And where did you go after that?
I went to Colchester after that.
156.
156.
Who was the RSM there then?
Oh Christ, you know what? I couldn't tell you.
What year was that? 98.
No, that'd have been no, that'd have been 99. I went there in 99. I had Sam Appleyard as my.
Sam, big Sam Appleyard.
Yeah, big fella. He was my staff sergeant. Yeah, great bunch of people. Really, really loved it there. Probably, I loved Londonderry. Londonderry was an amazing place to be. We worked hard, played hard, and it was, great bunch of guys and girls there. Really, really were. And some of them probably see this on my Facebook or whatever, but they really were great people. It was hard there, but we really did, we had some good parties, as it were. Let our hair down a lot. Went to Colchester, great, amazing place. 156, really enjoyed it. I was married at the time, so we went through some real trials going through that whole time. To be honest, I got married in 94, something like that. It was a really, really bad time throughout the marriage. And there's no blame there. I'm not going to blame my ex or anything like that. It was just a really short time. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. I do apologise.
No, that's all right.
So I had to leave the army, really. I really, really, to this day, really regret that.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I hear all the horror stories of army and what have you, but to be fair, the army always looked out for me. They always looked after me. They did. It was just a thing, you'd far, far more than I thought, actually, at the time. They did really look after us. And I've seen it online where people, slag it all off and, what have you, but when you go out and do a job like that, you're not going to get hugs every 2 minutes, don't get me wrong, but we were really looked after, I'll tell you that, far better than the future.
Well, I'll put some context around it.
Yeah.
I know 156 like the back of my hand. Frank Cannon was there, Sam Appleyard, Bob Grant, John Grant. Excuse me. My dad was a military policeman, and he was at 19 Brigade, which was in Cherry Tree Camp. And then when 19 Brigade went, this is in the late 60s, they all went into Gujarat, and my dad then joined the Civil Police. But when I was on major investigations, when the lads were killed, I raised around £3,000 for the memorial that now sits in the... Still there. Yes, we used to have dinner dances, and all the money we raised went to that. So I've got a massive affiliation with the Royal Military Police.
Well, Paul Lon, who you probably know, or have heard of. Paul was a Lance Corporal, actually a very new Lance Corporal in my section. Right. He was our desk boy.
Wow.
He was our tragic, lovely bloke, really, really lovely bloke. Absolutely tragic what happened,
Yeah, absolutely. But I keep in touch with quite a few of them from there.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them physically, but it is what it is. Pete Lavery, I think, was probably there at that time as well. But yeah, it's a small world. So when you are deployed overseas, you're in Northern Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough gig. Are you in married quarters in Northern Ireland? Or
yeah, I was. I was up near Ballykelly base. I can't remember. I was at Cluny base, which was in Londonderry, but I lived up the road. Yeah, I was in married quarters then. Sorry.
And there wasn't any significant action, although there was still
No,
action taking
it
place.
wasn't like it isn't. I mean, I left in 2000, so the guys in Kelso went through, Afghanistan, Gulf, and all that. That was well before my time. I mean, if anyone, I remember going back actually. Yeah, when I was at Full Field Ambulance in Aldershot, a few of our guys, literally a handful, got deployed to Bosnia.
Right. Yeah.
And it was under UN then, completely different. And they got, as I understand it, I think it might be the Royal Welsh Fusiliers or something like that. Got surrounded basically by loads of Serbs, and I think they shot them up for months. And then guys come back, and they've been the only people that've been in proper action for ever. And they were like, everyone was like, "Wow, my God, that's amazing." Yeah. It wasn't really even a thing in my days, the 90s. We got pot shots here and there, but it wasn't like it is with the people who went to Afghanistan and Iraq. No. Nowhere near. It really wasn't a thing.
You only have to look at the medal sets that the soldiers have. From 2000 onwards. They're absolutely, their chests. Yeah, they are absolutely. Their chests are absolutely full of medals. I don't think we'll ever see that again. Hopefully not. But it's
no, hats off to them. I mean, I left before then. So,
did you get deployed overseas? Did you go to theatre?
I went obviously Northern Ireland, but they kept sending me back to Cyprus for some reason. I don't know. They must think I needed a suntan. I went there 4 times in all, 1 UN and 3 British Forces Cyprus. So that was me really.
In Colchester, there used to be a military hospital.
Yes, they did.
Which is gone now. There's a med centre there now, which is right near the barracks. The main, I call it the new barracks, where 2 and 3 para are based.
Yeah.
And then you've got Gujarat, which is just, they call it Monkey Island locally, but because it is an island right in the middle now, there's roads on either side of it. So,
I visited a few years ago. It's a really weird place now. It's very much sort of completely gone. I remember it's like you've got the new barracks, which was when I was there, it was 10 Reg, I think, RLC.
Over at Roman Way.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and the rest of it was round where Gujarat is now. It was all sort of around that really.
Yeah.
But that's all gone. It's weird. Yeah.
Hyderabad, Kirky, McMahon.
That's it. Yeah.
All of those. Yeah, 10 Reg were up at Roman Way Barracks.
Yeah.
I was up there recently. I did a podcast with a guy there who deals with mental health. He does the Medicine Ball Challenge. I'll put his link in the footage of this podcast. And I went into Roman Way Barracks, and that's changed out of all proportion. I mean, I used to play hockey against the Army, and we used to go there for beers afterwards, which was very nice. And of course, it was a Gurkha, very Gurkha-led 10 Reg, certainly, with the Royal Corps of Transport as it was then. But Colchester's got happy days for me, and you've got the military prison just across the way at Beerchurch Hall Road.
Yeah, well, funny enough, in the RMP, I very rarely went there. I went there probably twice in my service.
Right.
But just to drop people off, or I think I took a statement there once. Someone had a kick in or something. But I got called back there in 2011. They sort of asked me if I'd come back to the military. Funny enough.
Oh, really?
From the police. So so I went and worked in that prison for basic prison. Really, it's a basic training place. Really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Very interesting. Sitting on the other side. Very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I went back there for a little bit of time. So that was an interesting time. Seeing that.
Yeah, I've been back in there a few times, but it's an interesting place.
Yeah.
So you sign off from the military.
Yep. What
police service did you join and why?
I joined Hertfordshire.
Right.
I'd nowhere to live really. I don't have any roots anywhere really. So funny enough, from Colchester, I was obviously looking at Essex place. Because I liked Essex. I mean, Colchester was a lovely area. I quite liked it. Really liked the Essex area. I would have joined that, but they weren't recruiting. So I'm not qualified for anything else. So what am I going to do? So I just yearly just put the, I didn't really want to go into London, to be fair, at the time. Although I spent most of my career there, stupidly, but at the time that wasn't a thing. I just wanted to be outside and do, So I looked around, and there was Bedfordshire and Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire. And, I happened to get into Hertfordshire, and they were, to be fair, great force at the time.
Where did you get posted to?
I started off at the time I was in North Hertfordshire, so it was like Letchworth, Hitchin, Royston, Baldock. They sort of covered that area across the top there in North Hertfordshire. And I did my training. I went to Brighton, and I love that. I mean, that was just amazing. I really had a great time at Brighton. Great bunch of people. So I did my training there for, I think it was like 15 weeks or so. And then went back. We had all had to go to Letchworth at the time, from my area anyway, to do our sort of what is now probationary training sort of unit. And I think we spent about 10 weeks there, I guess, something like that. And then I got posted to Hitchin.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I was based. I did, basically I started off patrolling the town centre. And so went from there really. So
And what sort of stuff would you deal with in Hitchin, and what sort of stuff had you been engaged in compared to your Royal Military Police stuff?
To be fair, they treated me a bit like an adult because they knew what I did before. I think, without saying, I think they look you up, don't they? I mean, I was 26, I guess, by then, which at the time was a bit later than a lot of recruits. I mean, now it's not unusual for even people sort of our age to join the police. Back then, people didn't join the police very late. So I got pretty much left alone, but I had a fantastic sergeant who was very much yesteryear sergeant. Sergeant Berry, his name was. And he taught me a lot. As in, it was very much rules. It was discipline, but in a good way. Which I think, and I know makes me sound really out.
I know what you're going to say.
It was a very much sign of its times. I.e., whatever the public are doing, the boys, and I say boys and girls, I don't mean that derogatory way at all, but the boys had your hair cut short. You didn't wear earrings. You weren't having visible tattoos. You had to be clean shaven. You couldn't turn up to work drunk. All that sort of stuff. That was there. They were rules. So you turned up any of them, bang. And the girls were the same. I mean, the girls had to have very little makeup on. Hair in a bun. It was all them sort of things, and that was just the way it was. And the discipline wasn't discipline like you had in the military. Don't get me wrong, but there were standards.
And they're absolutely right, and so there should be.
Well, I mean, I was, when I was leaving, people had 16 piercings and a Mohican, and I'm not joking. That's we can all sit here and slag that off, and people will, I'm sure, but you can't. There's standards, because I mean, if I walked in today, to say, if you need a lawyer or a doctor, and you walked in and they looked like that, would you stay there? Would you have confidence in them? I don't know. Personally, no. That's me.
I agree. I agree.
I walk into a doctor, I expect someone sitting there neat, calm, looking the part, and it does sound very yesteryear, and I appreciate that, but that's just the way it is, the way I feel.
No, I listen, you won't find an argument, because I absolutely agree. I just, the problem we have, and I think, I believe in the thin blue line. I think it's absolutely, the fact that it isn't political. The badge of the thin blue line is not political. It is about remembering those people that have fallen. But let me get that blue lamp out. When I joined, you weren't allowed to wear anything other than a poppy.
Yep.
For a period of time. When poppies went on sale until the Remembrance Parade, that's all you would wear. Now, some people are adorned like Christmas trees.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And from that, bear in mind that a police officer works without fear or favour. From the badges and everything else that they wear, you can see where their affiliations lie. Now, that could be that they're wearing, the thin blue line isn't what you wear on the outside, it's what you wear on the inside for me. If your heart believes in the police service, you'll feel that pain every time a copper gets killed.
Absolutely.
That goes without saying. You know, your uniform should reflect that anyway. But if you're wearing a CND, a pro-Palestine, even if you're wearing a pride badge, you know, and I've got lots of gay friends, that just it's become a political piece. The whole thing, you know, the wristbands and everything else, it becomes a political piece. And the police are a non-political organisation. So I think that whilst I'm not a massive fan of Mark Rowley or the hierarchy within the Metropolitan Police, I think he's actually right on this occasion because it gets it back. But everybody has to abide by the rules.
I think it comes down to what uniform is. The uniform is uniform.
Yes.
You know, and it is,
yeah.
It is what it is, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm out of it now, but, you know, I see standards just in general have gone lower over time, you know, big time now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I agree with you, mate. So you're in Hertfordshire. How long were you there?
I was there 3 years to start with, and then I threw my teddy in a corner one day. I was going through a divorce. I didn't really want to be at work, so I just walked out.
Did you?
Yeah. I walked into my sergeant, bless him. He was a really nice sergeant as well, and I just went, you know what, I'm out the door. And he said, you can't do that. You've got to put your resignation in. I went, nah, it's a warrant card. Lockers there. Yeah, out the door.
Why?
So,
what was it? What was it?
I just didn't want to be in the police. It wasn't the police. It was me. It was very much I just needed my space. And yeah, I threw my teddy in a corner, basically. It wasn't anything that happened. I think it was just a build-up of things, you know, going through a divorce. And I was losing everything at the time. You know, losing the house and the kid. I had a boy who was, you know, I'd split up probably, not actually, I was only about a year in Hertfordshire before I split up, really. And she moved up north, took my son with her. And it was all the combination of a lot of stuff going on. I was in a police hostel because I couldn't live in the house because I didn't have any furniture. So it was all pretty crap, really. Got left in a mountain of debt, which I didn't even know existed. And I'm not going to blame her. We'd been through some awful times. I mean, we'd lost children, and it had been a time before that. So, as in we lost children, they died. As in, yeah, she moved up north. I was going for a shit time, really. Yeah, I just walked out one day. I thought, yeah, done with beer. So I just left. And I spent probably about nearly 3 months going up mountains, went to north of France, walked around north of France. Can't speak French. That was an interesting time. Yeah, it was just, I was a foot passenger. Getting to Calais as a foot passenger was a bit interesting because that place ain't nice. Yeah, just, yeah, and then run out of money, basically.
So you actually signed out of the police. You just walked out the door,
no job.
Handed everything back and said, do you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. And they stopped paying you.
They stopped paying me, yeah. I walked out, I was unemployed. So I walked out, I had nothing. I didn't even have a job. I had nothing. I'd saved a bit of money, so I was all right for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months. So I was okay. I went out and I literally just climbed mountains. You know, I like to do that, although I've done one recently, it killed me. So I realised it's twice as high as it was before, and I'm twice the age. So, yeah, so I just walked out. I had nothing. I literally went nothing, and then ran out of money. So I grovelled my way back, basically. Yeah.
So you come back to the UK.
Yep. You've
got nowhere to live.
I had my house still because I always managed to keep the house.
Right.
I had nothing in my house. I had a mattress, I think, and a torch. There was nothing in my house. I had a couple of bags that I brought back with me. Yeah, I didn't have a lot.
So what did you do next then?
Well, I came back to Hertfordshire. I was driving past it because Hertfordshire Police are just off the A1 in Hertfordshire. It's the A1M, the motorway. Yeah. And so I was literally driving past it in my little old battered up Corsa that I had at the time. And I saw the sign for where they were, Wellington City. And I thought, you know what, I need a job. I need to go. So I went back and I sort of literally pulled into their front door, if you like, went to the reception and said to the receptionist, so, look, you know, I'm ex-PC Baker. I want to rejoin. I thought it was that simple, you know. She laughed at me. She went, "Don't really work like that," you know. So she said to me, she said, "I'll get someone from recruitment to come down and speak to you." So I said, "Okay." So this fella come down and he said, "Hello," and I'll give him all my details. And you can't believe this. Can't make out. So this fella come down, took me details, and he went, you know, who's your sergeant, who's your inspector, etc., etc., and where do you work and all that sort of jazz. And he said, "Look, I'm not being funny, mate, this ain't going to really work, but I'll go upstairs to make some inquiries, I'll come back down." So he went upstairs, done that, come down, he said, "You start next Monday," or whatever it was, you know.
No way.
Same team, yeah. And this is the time, I mean, not being funny, the police are calling out for officers now. They weren't back then. It was very hard to get in the police back in the day, as you probably know yourself. It weren't hard. Yeah, so I went back literally where I started. Went back on the, you know, same place. The only thing is they wouldn't give my number back. So I was 782 when I went there, and they give me 636. Wouldn't give me 782 back. But funny enough, I then became a tutor, and I tutored the person that had 782.
Well, I know. What did the sergeant say? So you've gone back in. "Hello, Sarge, remember me?" I bet they went grey.
They were a little bit like, they were, to be fair, they were really pleased to have me back. So it wasn't like it was almost like having a holiday, but I did one. So yeah, went for that. But I didn't stay there very long, and in doing that was response policing. I got sort of poached to go and do a town team.
Right.
So I was pretty much mainly plain clothes, working around the town, which, yeah, I really loved that. I mean, that was a great job. Really, really enjoyed that. Worked for some fantastic people on there. That was hard work. I mean, proper thief taking, legging it down the roads off people, you know, that sort of stuff. Now I love that, you know. I didn't want to go there to start with, funny enough. I got sort of coerced into doing it. I suppose I wasn't dumped into doing it. I agreed to do it, but it probably one of my best jobs ever, to be fair. You know, loved it. Yeah, and tutored people on that as well, so that was great times. Yeah, loved it.
Did you get involved in any major crime?
Funny enough, so back in the day, we're talking there. I mean, this is obviously 20 plus years, or 20 years ago or so, you know, something like that. Didn't really get made, you know, we had stabbings and, you know, rapes and all that sort of stuff going with it. So I got involved in that side of it, but as a uniform bobby, basically. So it wasn't like I was involved in the investigation. I certainly wasn't. That was well above my pay grade. I did my inspector at the time. He basically got me up there on a promise of giving me extra courses, you know. So he was going to give me, where do you want to go in 5 years' time? I'll get you up there. Come work for me. I'll do this. Nothing come from that.
Right.
Apart from one day, he phoned me, and I was on my way to work. I was in blues, half blues. So I'm driving to work, and he phones me up. He goes, "Baker," because that's what he used to talk to me. "Baker, where are you?" I said, "Well, Governor, I'm trying to work." He said, "Well, don't come here. Don't come here. Drive to this hotel near Wellington City." I was like, "Okay, why?" And he went, "You'll find out when you get there," and hung up on me. I was like, "No, what am I doing?" Yeah, I have no idea. So I turned up at this hotel. It's not there anymore. I turned up at this hotel, went to reception, went, "Hello, I have no idea why I'm here, but this is me." And she went, "That's fine. They're expecting you in that conference room there." I went, "Okay." So I walked in this conference room. Now you can imagine, I'm in half blues. So for them who don't know, that's boots, trousers, white shirt. I think it was it blue? No, I think it was probably white by that time.
Yeah.
And a jacket. And I walk in to this conference room, and there must be 30 people sitting in there, and they're all in a big semicircle with one chair in the middle, which, you know, is my chair, obviously. And there's a bloke sitting at the front who's watching them, old grizzled old veteran. And I walk in, and I'm like, geez, you know, I'm probably not even 30 years old at the time. And all these are grizzled veterans, all of them, male and female, mainly male, but there's a couple of ladies in there. And I said, "Hello, I'm in the right room." Yeah, they're all in civvies. I'm the only person that's wearing any semblance of any uniform. And he said, "Hello, yeah, you Mick, sit over there." Oh, okay, great. So I sat down. I thought, "I don't know why you're here." And it starts. So he said, "You haven't missed much." He said, "They're just introducing themselves." I said, "Okay, cool." So there's a couple of up from me. He says, hello. I'm John. He says, or something similar, I'm from Crops, which, for those who don't know, so reconnaissance surveillance team for Royal. And I've been in 27 years. I've been in 4 years by now, and then it carries on, and it's getting nearer to me. There's people in there from Customs, MI5, headquarters, major crime, you name it. And I'm a PC on the beat. I'm like, what the freaking am I doing here? You know what I mean? Comes to me, I said, oh, Mick, I've been in 3 years or whatever it was. I've done 3-4 years. I have no idea why I'm here. And it turns out that was the surveillance log keeper and disclosure officer course.
Oh, wow.
Which was a course at the time. I have no idea why I was even there. And it was a fantastic course. It was a really good course. But that led on to a lot of other courses after that. Because as you know yourself, the way the police works, you get courses, if that makes sense. You do one, you get loads. So I did a load of stuff around surveillance. I did a test purchasers course. I never even wanted to go on that, wasn't interested, but ended up on that. Did surveillance stuff. Not full time, never done any of these jobs full time.
Did you get deployed on the TP stuff?
No, once, but I didn't feel comfortable doing it, to be fair. And I had to meet a fella in a pub. That was literally it. And it was one of the other TPs that I was, that was obviously doing his job. And I was, I mean, not being funny. Look at me. I don't look like I can blend in. I'm a cop.
Maybe that's what the modern police service want. They want people to blend in so they don't get involved. But
well, I was what I was, and I did that. I didn't feel comfortable doing it, not because I didn't enjoy it, because it is a really good job. Them people are brave as hell. I mean,
they are. Yeah, they are.
Shadow of a doubt. It just wasn't what I was into at the time. I was a thief taker. I was I wanted to run up and down roads chasing people, and you speak to anyone that knows me back then. I love nicking people at the time. I mean, the glaze come off eventually, but at the time it was just,
But there is something about, I was a UC manager, there's something about someone walking into an office saying, I bought this, boss, and they walk in with a load of heroin or coke or guns. I mean, it's
That's bigger stuff. I mean, I'm drinking, you nick a shoplifter for 20 quid out of WH Smith, saying, can change the world, do you know what I mean?
But they're the same, but often they're the same people. They're the same people that are, the criminality, they're entrepreneurs, a lot of them. They don't stick to one line of criminal activity. They will get involved in many. So how long were you in Hertfordshire before you moved on?
I did 5 years there.
Right.
To the end, which I felt really guilty leaving, because they gave me a job back, and then 2 years later I walked out the door again.
And where did you go from there, though?
Hertfordshire were good folks at the time.
So why did you leave, though?
Well, because I was on the town team. I ended up planning a load of operations, really. It was mainly anti theft from town, obviously. That's what people do. So it's a load of operations, and I sort of got into. We'd done a lot of intelligence work, if you like, and realised that obviously a lot of these people were moving between towns by trains. Yeah. And so our shoplifters were coming in. They weren't local. Some were, obviously. But most of them were coming in from places like Stevenage or in from Bedfordshire or wherever. Yeah. And so I decided to do basically an operation at Hitchin railway station. And at the time, Hitchin was covered by BTP from British Transport Police from Peterborough, which was run by a sergeant. And so I got in contact with him. He said, I'll spy a few people, come down myself, I'll do this, do that. And it was a really successful operation. We ended up with loads of nicks. We ended up with, we got the warrants, people out from the courts for the non-payment of fine stuff. We had revenue there doing the ticket jobs and whatever. And it turned out to be a really successful operation. And we ended up doing that quite regularly, to such an extent that it sort of kiboshed theft in town, really, right, to a massive extent. I mean, I went down from, I think on their own figures at the time, it went down like a sixth of what it had been before, by doing all these different things we were doing. So it was really, really successful. And I remember the town team sort of person from Stevenage, which is a far bigger town. He was like, I remember going to a meeting one day. He's like, can I have a word? I was like, yeah. He said, what are you doing? I said, what? He said, what are you doing at Hitchin? Because all your people are now coming and doing it on my patch because they're not doing your ground, you know, because we were absolutely on them. So it was really successful. But anyway, while that's going on, the sergeant there, I won't name him, but it was a really nice guy. I think he's now firearms inspector, I think, and maybe a chief inspector. Really nice guy. He's like, Nick. So at the time, you think of the time. This is now 2005. The bombings hadn't quite happened, but they weren't far off. The force I went to were a bit of a tin pot force at the time. Weren't very well regarded, very badly funded, etc., etc. But he's like, Mick, they're trying to, you know, they want some professionals in. They've basically been told that they need to look after their own crime, sort themselves out, otherwise they're going to close them down and, you know, they won't exist anymore. So they're basically poaching people from outside. And they're looking at, because I was a tutor, they're setting up a tutor unit, a centralised tutor unit in London, and you'd be ideal for it. So I thought, you know, why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up going to London. Yeah, and
working at Camden.
Sorry,
you worked at Camden?
Yeah, well, I started off at King's Cross because I went on response for a bit because they hadn't opened. They were still using on the north, or I was on London North as they called it back then. A response, absolutely fantastic time. A big eye opener though. Like, it really exposed me to a lot of stuff that I wasn't really ready for, to be fair.
Such as?
Sorry?
Such as?
Fatalities were massive, and I was not prepared for fatalities. I really wasn't. I've been in the army. I had seen fatalities. I dealt with a lot of stuff in my time, but it's very, very regular. As in, you know, in Hertfordshire, I've probably done it half a dozen, not even that, probably less than a hand full of people I dealt with. But then I'm expected to pick people up, you know, that are fatal. And when I don't want to get too graphic, I don't want to make this horrendous, but an inside-out person, you're picking them up. And I wasn't really ready for that, and that was normal. It was just like, we're going to do this, and it was like, oh. And where the team I went on to, I was actually, even though I was only 5 years in, I was a response driver. I was 5 years in. I was an experienced person. I was, you know, it was full of probationers. There was only, my sergeant was amazing, great sergeant. We had an inspector. We had, you know, my team were amazing people. But it was like, that's what we do, you know.
And these are people who have taken their own lives, aren't they? That you're dealing with. So there's not only is there the backdrop of what they've done, but you've also got in the background a grieving family who've got a lot of unanswered questions, which you also have to deal with. And you also have 100,000 people that are trying to get from King's Cross to wherever, who are grumpy. Not that you get to see that, but you're conscious of the fact that you've got a person who's on a track who needs picking up before the trains can come through, because obviously that's pound notes as well. So there's a culmination of things there that apply a significant amount of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shocker for me. I joined in October of 2005, so it was after the bombings. So we'd had bombings in London, so it was after that. And I remember going out to jobs, and they had and probably still have, a target for a suicide. So if you can confirm it's a suicide, 90 minutes from the minute it comes in to the minute it clears, it's got to be 90 minutes.
Wow.
Good. Which, coming from Hertfordshire, where you could be sat on a cordon for all day or all night, you know, that's not a thing. You know, you've got 90 minutes. Now, bear in mind, it can take you half an hour to get there, you know, if you're, depending on where it is.
And then you've got to walk the line.
Yep. And then you've got to get on there, get a body bag, chuck it all in, make sure you've got the right bits, and take it off, and then hand it back. And that's 90 minutes. And that to me was a bit, I got into a place that it was normal, but I look back and it ain't normal.
No, it's not normal.
Because I mean, I'll probably cover this in a bit, but yeah, it you know, I remember on near Christmas that year, it must have been a couple of days before Christmas, because I mean, suicides at Christmas are, obviously, you're probably aware, you know, a bit bigger than the rest of the year, you know, all the time, unfortunately. I remember coming back to the office and they said, well, we don't know who this person is. We need you to go to the mortuary with someone else. Another person, I won't name again, but he's now a sergeant, fantastic guy. But going to a mortuary in North London and having to get the body out and fingerprint, dead set, as they called it, dead set hand. And it's literally in my hand. They wash it off for me in the mortuary, but I've got a hand, literally a severed hand or arm in my hand, broken bones, because it's all broken because it's been under a truck. And I'm dead set in it. You know, which, you know, doing that. You know,
but that's not normal. I mean, look.
But it's not normal. But I'm laughing now, but it's not a normal thing in life, you know.
But you do normalise it in your own mind. I mean, I don't hark back to anything that I dealt with mentally. Yeah, I talk about it because, you know, I remember everything, every post-mortem I've ever been to, every death I've been to. You know, the first jumper I saw, things like that. I vividly remember that. It doesn't have an impact on me as a individual, but I understand why it does impact on people because it's not normal. Maybe I'm not normal.
So I mean, it didn't. Funny enough, I can't remember the majority of things I've been to. I really can't. Right. And I'll tell you for why. So when I was going back, we rewind. I'm in Cyprus, very young. I was 19 at the time, I guess. Cyprus, it's on base areas, British areas in Cyprus, but they're military. The military run the British area, if you like. So the emergency services are the medical corps do the ambulances, defence fire do the fire brigade, and some base area police do the policing. So I was brought over there as a bit of a stopgap because they had a medic who'd come off a bike and had to come back to the UK. And so like, oh, you're off to Cyprus. I was like, yay, great. You know, I'm young and it's great, Cyprus, you know, who knows, you know. Very young medic, not really had any real practical experience. Very well trained, don't get me wrong, but practical experience, zip all really. In the medical centre, and you're an ambulance, and the ambulance is you and a civilian driver. This is a normal emergency ambulance like you see now, obviously back in the day. You could call a medic out, you could call a doctor out, whatever, but you're it. So I went out to this, I was literally my second or third day. I get called out at night time to a head-on RTC.
Yeah.
Two families basically head-on some base area. I get there, Defence Fire Service are there, some base area police are there, doing the best they can, but they look at you as the expert. I'm 19 years old. I'm a kid. I look back now, my son's older now, I still look at him as a kid, you know. Yeah. And I just think, I get there and everyone's help, and I'm just getting everything. I've done the best I could, you know, dead, dying. It was horrendous, you know. You've never seen nothing like it. It was like horrendous for me at that age. And I come out there and I finished, and, you know, the reinforcements arrived eventually, but I was probably there 20 minutes, did my own, doing the best I could. I felt I did really badly, but apparently I did very well, if that makes sense. I come around, beat myself up for the next day. I was off the next day, and then I went back in the day after, and the doctor that I was assigned to was like, I need a word. I said, okay, sir, I'm in the office. He went, what's going on? I said, I can't cope with this. I can't do this anymore. Done. You know, I need to transfer out. I need to do another job. And he said, what's the problem? I said, I just can't cope with what happened yesterday or the day before. I can't cope with it. That's too much for me. And he said, your problem is you're too emotional. I'm too emotionally attached. Okay, I went, okay. Now he's giving me the best bit of advice that actually sorted me out from my life, but then screwed me up at the end, if that makes sense. So I'll explain. Yeah. So he said to me, if you need to be in trauma and medical, anything medical and trauma related, you need to take the emotion out of it. And the only way you can do that is look at a human body like a mechanic looks at a car. Okay, don't look at the emotions, just look at how we can help that human body. If that makes sense. Yeah. And I remember walking out there thinking, what a prick. Yeah. Yeah. What's he know? Yeah. And then I thought about it and I processed it, and then I did. And I completely dumped them emotions. For the whole of my career, in everything I've done since 19 years of age, I dumped it. Completely dumped everything. Which was good at the time. And it helped me out through when I was picking up dead people and everything I've done before and since. it helped me out until it didn't help me out.
So what changed though? I mean, it's funny because I believe that some forms of PTSD, there was trauma in somebody. I'm not a counsellor, mate, by any stretch of imagination. I'm certainly not an expert in this. But I wonder if there was a trauma in people's lives before they got to the point of having PTSD. If there was something like a road collision where dead and die. Listen, I was a murder squad detective. I'd turn up, they were already dead.
Yeah.
I didn't have to try and help people, and then all of a sudden that, and I've got a guy I worked with who witnessed a vehicle hitting a bridge and catching on fire, and he tried to save the 4 kids inside, and they all died in front of him. That trauma will be with him for the rest of his life, and I wonder if that's something that sparks off PTSD in later life, when something else just builds up in the bottle of crap, basically.
I think, having gone through the process of all that, which you may or may not be aware, I've been through all that counselling sort of stuff. It's not one thing with me. It was never one thing that, like some person can get one incident and say, that's what done it. It wasn't that. It was hundreds, absolutely hundreds. I mean, as I said, 5 years in Hertfordshire, I saw probably 3 dead bodies, Yeah. In BTP, I've done that in a day. Sorry, I shouldn't even mention that. Sorry, pardon me. The police force I worked with, edit that one out, okay? But the police force I worked with, I could do that in a day. That's.
You can say BTP. You've left now. It's not a secret.
Okay, British Transport Police. That's the force. But that was normal. That wasn't abnormal. If you went to 2 a day, it was not abnormal.
So look, you've gone on your journey with your new force, and every day there's a fatality, and you're on a busy line, and it's a horrendous setup. But what support did you get within that organisation in order to deal with your personal needs, your mental well-being? What did they give you?
So if you imagine finishing, I mean, I worked on specialist units quite a lot within them, but even then, it was flagged up that it needs to be something there, but it just never happened. And there's guys and girls out there now, literally as we're speaking, that are probably dealing with this, and they will get end of. So when I left, I didn't leave long ago, so it's not yesteryear. This is this year.
Yeah.
My last sort of active shift, if you like, was July this year.
Yeah.
What we now? October, so we're not long ago. There, you would finish the job. Used to be when I was up in London. Yes, you were getting inspector turn up. Now, invariably, if you're outside of London, you're talking a sergeant.
Yeah.
They get you together. Now, bear in mind, not only you pick the body up, at least 2 of you are going to the mortuary. Okay, now the mortuary, the undertakers turn up, they take the body off you, they put it in the van, and off they go, and you follow them. Sounds nice, all done. Apart from when you get to the mortuary, you've now got to tag them.
Yeah.
So you've got to open that body bag, find a wrist or a foot, or both, if you could, and then tag them. Okay, so that's not a nice thing to do.
No.
Okay, you might have to photograph it if you don't know who they are. I don't get too graphic, but there was.
But we are talking about a bag of mush, aren't we? We're not talking about
a
cadaver that you can identify. You can't walk in and say, "Oh, this is Granny Smith," and the family will be able to see, because that's the other thing. The families can't go and see these bodies.
Absolutely not. No, I mean, I'm not saying every fatality is like that. It's not, but a fair few. I mean, talking on fast trains, if you like big trains, you're certainly talking. Some could spread over 200, 300, 400 meters. You're not
absolutely.
So put them in a bag, and then you're expected to get in that bag and try and find a foot or a hand. That's again normalised, but isn't normal. I personally didn't, and again, people who've been watching this who know me, I was absolutely crap at doing death messages. To go around and see the family and saying,
Oh, yeah.
I was crap at it because I had no emotion. So I couldn't, at the time, I mean, this is not me now. Back in the day, I would have walked in and said, hello, are you John Smith? Yeah, okay, your son's dead. There's the coroner's details. See you later. And walk out the door. I was a leaflet there for you. That's me, because I didn't have the emotion to sit there and say, oh my God, that's terrible, you know. And I was terrible at it. So don't send me to that. So, and because I was a medic, I was always dealing with dead and dying. It was very much, Mick, take someone, go down the mortuary. And I volunteered for it, you know, I did.
But I think, I mean, this is a terrible thing to say, but that doctor is right. You know, you do need to. I vividly remember delivering death messages. I remember the first one I ever delivered. A man had been diving in Portsmouth, in the harbour in Portsmouth, and he'd had a massive heart attack, and I had to go and tell his son. I mean, that was terrible. Yeah, I'm 21 years old, and I'm knocking on a door in Braintree, telling him that he's, you know, the guy that he lived with, because his mum and dad had split up, and he lived with his dad. His dad was dead, and that was terrible. But the doctor is right. You do need to maintain that distance, if you like, simply because you have to maintain a professional, investigative mind around it.
Yeah.
Because the minute you start becoming emotionally involved, you know, with murders, suicides, things like that, you know, suicide where you don't know how they've died and it's been treated as suspicious. There are a lot of things, a lot of hurdles you have to jump through before you can go back to the family and say, well, actually, you know, they died of a tramadol overdose.
Yeah.
I mean, jumping in front of a train is an obvious one. What isn't obvious as to why they've done it half the time. But when it's you know, when someone's taken their own life through taking pills, etc., that's less obvious, and toxicology then bears out. But it's a difficult job, and not a job that everybody can do. So you should be commended for the fact that you did it for as long as you did without breaking, if you like.
Yeah, do you know, people say that, you know, I didn't see it as that because I actually enjoyed it. Weird to say. I don't mean I enjoyed it to death. That's stupid. But I'm saying I enjoyed doing my job. I loved my job at the time. I thoroughly enjoyed my job until I realised that it was pointless.
I understand what you're saying.
Sorry?
I understand what you're saying. I loved my job, you know, and it's horrendous. Dealing with death is horrendous. But I found post-mortems fascinating. As much as I didn't want to look, I wanted to look. And that is how I was, you know, and I suppose I'm weird from that perspective. But at what point did you fall out of love with them? Because I read a LinkedIn post saying that you've written to the superintendent, the chief constable, you know, you've written to everybody, and they've just totally ignored you. What was that all about?
Okay, so that lasted 3 years. Then, so we're talking coming up to the Olympics now. That started. We got new bosses at that point, and basically they had this headset that if you are mindset, that if you were in plain clothes, you weren't working. So everyone was back in uniform. Tasking wasn't really tasking anymore. It was turning up in uniform, big yellow jacket, you know, which has its place, but as you know yourself, doesn't really sort the problems a lot of the time. Criminals ain't stupid. You know?
No, of course they're not.
They're not dumb. So that didn't really work. So they come up with a new concept in BTP, which was a medical unit. They were going to have medics, basically. So train medics out there, advanced medics. Get the system moving. Someone has a problem on the train stops. Ambulance is going to be 2 hours. Get a medic there, sort it out, get them off, done, move train on. Great concept. Just come in just before the Olympics. That then morphed, and it's now still a unit that goes now. The Network Incident Response Team. Fantastic concept, still works to this day in central London. I had a bit of a falling out, shall we say, out there at some point, and chose to move where I was going, and then moved to a response post after that. So yeah,
right.
And then I fell out of love with it later on.
So you've got a you've retired in July of this year.
Yeah.
Did you take any time off before you left, or?
Yeah. So last July, so not July gone, the one before.
Yeah.
I took time off. I had a bit of a breakdown, to be fair. Didn't realise I was doing it. Detriment to my family, absolutely. My children, and my friends at work, which I do regard as friends. I mean, my team and people at work were amazing. They have, and they still are to this day. Still contact most of them. They took me to one side and took me, interns, right, Nick, what's going on here? You need to get some help, mate. Because I wasn't me anymore. So I went to the doctors. I put my little form into the doctors, as you have to email them these days, and said, I need some help. They put me in contact with a mental health person, and I went to go and see the doctors. And, as I said before, my emotions have been cut off completely. I have none. I don't cry, something. And then I went to go and see this mental health lady, absolutely amazing. She sat me down and said, literally, she knew I was there, obviously. She turned to me and she said, how can I help you? And I literally burst in tears. Literally just like absolutely just went, meltdown. And I had about an hour in with her. She referred me to an organisation called We Are With You, a mental health organisation. And because I was a veteran, luckily, I got very, very quick treatment. They signed me off for as long as I needed. And I went through that process. I had trauma-based CBT that lasted quite a few months, and it was bloody hard work, to be honest. It was.
Yeah, of course it is. It is hard work. But you've got some great allies in the likes of PTSD 999, Gary Hayes, and the great work that he does.
Yeah.
So there are people out there, but what was the response from the senior management within the force? Did any of these people have contact with you when you left?
No. So I went off in a bad way. I locked myself away pretty much for a couple of months. Didn't want to go out because they're one of the things on the side. So go back sort of 5-6 years from that, I'd started my own business. So I do medical training, essentially. Right. I train, I've done it for the police, I do it for the outside. So normal first aid work stuff, but also advanced stuff as well.
Yeah.
Also work at ambulances, and I've done that as a business, self-employed, done it, declared it, all there. So I've been doing it a while. But I didn't do that because I thought, well, I can't really do that because I got caught out, in greens out in an ambulance. Looks bad. So I locked myself away. I didn't go to the gym, didn't do anything, just literally locked myself away. That went on for a couple of months. I was going in, I didn't have to, but I went in probably once a month to see my team. And then I give my sick note into my sergeant. My sergeant was very good. I'm not going to slag him off. He was very good. And then one day, it was probably about 3 months in. Now, I hadn't referred myself to occupational health because they're bloody awful. To be honest, at BTP at the time, they were terrible. I'd already had dealings with them the year before. I was response driving and I was having blackout, as in I couldn't remember the journey.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't know why. I was like literally zoning out. And I went to the doctors and said about it, and they said, my blood pressure had gone out through the roof. And a lot of that obviously was to do with what happened later on. So I take myself off driving anyway. But occupational health, absolutely useless. Did nothing. Didn't help. No, I went back. I went on light duties at that point, and I went back on normal duties because of a phone call. And it was literally, I phoned them up, thought I'm bored, sat in the office. I need to get back out. My phone call was like, "Hello, yeah, my doctor signed me back on." And they hadn't. I mean, I still had the high blood pressure. It wasn't a thing. Because I was bored, I said to them, there was no checks and balances there. They went, "Okay, sign back on there." And I went back to work. I refused to drive. Not they took me off it. I refused to because I thought that's dangerous. And I became a passenger. And to be fair, being so many years as a response driver, I actually quite enjoyed it, to be fair, being in the passenger seat. So I went back to work. Anyway, so later on, yeah, so I didn't go to occupational health. I didn't really have much contact with HR. There's no contact really. My sergeant was doing what he did, you know, some of the stuff. Are you all right? That sort of stuff. So about maybe 3 months in, I went in to do the same thing again into work, and the sergeant said to me, would you mind staying a little bit longer? Now, bear in mind, I was 6, so I never stayed there at all. Would you stay a bit longer? I said, okay. The inspector wants to come and see you. He wants to check up on you. I said, oh, okay, no worries. So I stayed there. Now, they were meant to be coming in 10 minutes. An hour later, they turn up, walk in, no apology, no hello, just walked in, checked their emails, done that. You know, it's all pretty crap, to be honest. I was sitting there thinking, hello, you know, and my whole team was in at the time, just sitting there. Sergeant's there as well. And I get called into the office with the sergeant and this inspector. And I thought it was going to be a welfare, as in, how are you doing? You know, how's things? How can I help you? And then basically I spent half an hour there getting berated, getting told I was lying, that they didn't believe me, that it was all crap, basically. I even said at one point, I said, you're doing this now. I said, if I had a broken leg, you know, it's almost like you're twisting my broken leg now. You know, I'm sitting in here and you're hurting me. I got threatened with surveillance because they thought I was working outside the job, which I wasn't. And you can ask anyone that at all. You know, people I've worked for may see this and they'll tell you I wasn't there for 6 months. I just didn't go in. And I was threatened. It was bad. It was really bad. There was no support there at all. Nothing.
Did they put any of this in writing to you, though? I mean, all these threats, or was it all done on a verbal basis?
Verbal. The sergeant got so embarrassed he walked out. Walked out and went and made a cup of tea. Took 10 minutes out, and then I was told basically they left the room. The sergeant did, and it was like, I can't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you because it's one-on-one. But this has come from the top. Okay, this is all from the top. It's not me. It's from the top. And I went, okay. Sergeant comes back in the room. Now everything had been said while he'd gone. I then repeated in front of the inspector and him, and they had to admit that what I'd said is true. Okay. I walked out of that room. I should have walked out a lot earlier, but I didn't. Walked out, my team was still there. I told them what happened. They were disgusted. That inspector then walked out, went home, because they spend a lot of time working from home, which I'm not really sure how that works, but anyway, that's fine. I then repeated what happened in front of everyone, in front of the sergeant. He had to admit that it was true. Yeah, and I went home.
What did professional standards say about this bullying then?
Nothing. I've emailed, so essentially nothing really happened then at all. I got going forward. I had to refer, because I hadn't referred myself to occupational health to start with. That was a problem apparently. But I was like, well, I wouldn't refer myself to them because they can't help me any quicker. As a veteran, I got quick, you know, through my doctor. You get it quicker than if I'd gone through the police, because the police, I'd still been in a waiting room. My actual counsellor said that. She said, you'd still be in a waiting list, you know. I said, why would I go through them? But that was a bad thing, so I had to refer myself. HR sent me a letter saying, if you don't come back to work, we'll sack you. Stop your paying, sack you. Occupational health phoned me up eventually and went, well, there's nothing we can really do because you're getting treatment. So I think just before I left, and I'm not a life-safe case. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff going on at the moment. Within, and I don't think it's just there. I think it's police in general. I sent a complaint in, basically, while I was still serving. I sent it about, so I sent a pre-complaint out, basically, to where I work, saying, just to let everyone aware, this is what's going to go in, roughly. I didn't put the whole shebang there because it was like 3 pages long. Yeah. But I sent a snapshot. And that was about 11 o'clock on a Friday night. Okay, so it was late. I was on night shift. Lates were still in. The panic buttons went. You couldn't believe. I mean, sergeants were running around. My inspector that particular inspector wanted a Teams meeting with me at midnight, which I refused. I mean, what inspectors at home on a midnight on a Friday wanted to chat to me, unless you're worried, you know? it just, that don't make sense, does it? You know, talk to me on Monday, you know. But anyway, I refused to speak, and I told Sergeant I wouldn't, and they relayed it. I did get a lot of support from that, though. To be fair, people, I had text messages, I had emails, I had points on radio. People in my office like, wow, fantastic, well done for speaking out, because it's not an isolated case. So yeah, so that my email went in. I'll actually send it to you later, just so you've got it.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got no problem showing it. There's no names in there. There's no ranks in there. It's a generalised email, but it's quite big and it's quite in depth. It's all proof. Everything I've put in there is completely based on fact, and I can prove that. But I will send it to you later.
Thank you.
So yeah, there's a lot of panic around. I then got offered by a superintendent to come up to London and have a chat about the issues, which I did. Yeah, taking in maybe an hour in there. Seemed to take everything very seriously, and you know, it's all good. Like, you know, the right noises were made. But to this day, nothing's changed. I know people there now they're like, nah, nothing's changed. They won't. You know, it was just threats and intimidation, and in the end, I just went, you know what, now done. So
you retired, and they let you go off into the sunset.
Yeah, no one cared. No one cares.
I mean, if Sean O'Callaghan's listening to this, would you sit across the table and speak to him? I mean, do you know him?
Yeah, I've met him. He probably. The thing was that I've had chief constable's commendations. I've had my long service medal and all that with the chief. Okay. They probably wouldn't even recognise me. Don't care. I mean, the thing is that it's all, to me, I'm not that person anymore. Okay, I'm not the person that was the, you know, I'm going to do all that to you anymore. I'm not that. I've left, and I've realised that it ain't all that. You know, these people think they're very powerful, but I don't think they really are. And think, yes, would I? Yes, if it would do some help. I don't care about me. That is the bottom line. Is what's happened to me has happened to me. It's ain't going to change. Nothing's going to change for me now. I've had any help. I've done this. I've done that. I'm not in a bad place. I've got fantastic work now. I mean, literally brilliant. However, there's a lot of people out there, and it ain't just the force I work with. I speak to other people from other forces, and it ain't just my force that don't have any help, and they need to realise what they're putting through people for every single day. Yeah. You know, and with no back, you know, literally nothing to help anyone. You know, nothing. You were going back to when we were talking about fatalities earlier, and this sounds, to anyone listening, this sounds really weird. So imagine I'm picking a dead body up with loads of other people. Right? Pick it up, chuck it in there. I go to the mortuary, I tag it, I finish. I go back to the office. Okay, a few hours later, what do I get? I get, make sure you write your statement, okay, and book your property in. See you tomorrow.
And that's it.
And I'll get an email at some point offering me some help if I want
it. So do they? I mean, they can't possibly do PIMs and trim and all that because they would have a dedicated unit that just dealt with the element around the trim stuff.
So just before I left, this is a weird point. So I did a peer supporter course,
right?
Which is fairly new, I think, in policing, and great course. Don't get me wrong, really good, great concept. Now I had to sign a confidentiality clause there. So anyone I spoke to, if I said anything about what they're coming to me about, I'm sacked. I'm out the door. Right?
Yeah.
Now you know yourself, federation union, essentially, if you like, and trim. Neither of them are confidential. Not one of them is signed up to be confidential. They can walk out of there, and they have, because I've seen it. Will come out and go, God, guess what such and such did? You know, oh God, he's, you know, whatever. They can have a chat. So who's going to trust them systems? If I'm talking to you now about this, and you then, this is confidential, and you go and put it all over the internet tomorrow, I'll talk to everyone. I know you're going to put this on the internet, but I'm talking in general. We're talking about this now. and this is confidential, and I've got this is confidential, and you then tell everyone, is anyone going to trust you tomorrow? So trim, it's not all that, Fed ain't all that.
Have you done a subject access request?
Yes.
And what came back from that?
I ain't had one yet, because they keep bouncing it. They keep wanting more specific.
You don't need to be specific, because it's the information about you and about the conversations being held in relation to you. It's your data. You're entitled to it. This isn't a freedom of information request. And I think that some of these data holders seem to forget that this is your information. If people are saying bad things about you, and I should actually do a short video about how to apply for and obtain your data through a subject access request.
You should, because it's one of the things. I'll put it in. I didn't really know. I just said basically, I want information about me between this day and this day. That's all.
Yep.
That's me. They bounced it back, and fair enough. They said, well, we need a little bit more, because that could be stuff about you doing training or doing
yes.
crap. I said, okay, fine. These are the people I want it mentioned about. Any of these people between this day and this day in relation to this, and that's still. I think they bounced it back twice, and it's still pending at the moment. So
you know that you can make a complaint to the Information Commissioner's Office.
Yeah, I think they said I've got. I think I've looked on my phone. I think they said it's towards later on this month. They basically advice, so we'll see.
Yeah, I should because I help so many people with subject access requests, and it's a tool that if organisations realised that they were going to get caught out all the time, they would behave themselves. They would behave properly. They wouldn't send, because you're entitled to WhatsApps, text messages, emails, any form of messaging, written notes, audio notes, anything at all that relates to you. But you have to specify that. You can't. It can't be a. I just want all this data. It's got to be. It's got to be honed.
I mean, to be fair, all I've asked for at the moment is emails. I don't care about anything else, because I know there's been emails sent, and they're the ones I want. I'm not really interested in the rest, because, there's.
I would be.
I for instance, right? I sent I wouldn't say complaints. My concerns, because it wasn't a complaint. It was concerns, because it's not about. It wasn't specific to me. Some of it was, but it's very much about behaviours, as in the standards of policing.
Yes.
If you see policing in offices now, you went back there and sat in an office now, just shut your mouth, sat in a corner and watched it, you'd be horrified.
Yeah.
You would literally be horrified. Because I've sat there and people I know that are serving today, and I'll speak to a lot. They sit there, I'm not talking people in donkey's years, but people who made 10, 15, 20 years. And the people that come through now, because I think the police load the standards, and sergeants are so, at the moment, a lot of them are quite new or temporary, and they're so crapping themselves because they think they're going to lose their position. They don't say anything. The inspectors are doing the same, and basically bad behaviour breeds bad behaviour.
Absolutely.
And if I'd said something out of place or done something out of place, I'd have been pulled over, straight in the office. Everyone knows I've got a bollocking. Jesus, don't do that again, Now it's just allowed to happen, and the sergeants join in with it. And the thing is that behaviours, and the public, we see complaints all the time about police, which I'm sure it's yourself, but it breaks my heart, because I'm not like that. I was never like that. And everyone's slagging off police, and it's not every police officer. But is there an element of that? Absolutely, there is, massively. I see it. I see homophobic behaviour, misogynic behaviour, racism. Is it there? Yes, unfortunately it is. It wasn't there. Honestly, I can hand on heart say, in my 24 years, until the last probably 5 or so years, it wasn't a thing. It really wasn't. People weren't racist. They weren't homophobic. You get the odd thing. It's going to happen. Of course it will, because you can't. But as an organisation, it wasn't that. And now it's allowed to breed to be that. And the standards. I mean, you go into every office. They've got these bloody great posters up saying, "Speak out, say this, do this," and it looks as if they're doing the right thing. You think. But the problem is, if you raise, I mean, ex-colleague of me, he may see this, okay, but he come up with a great thing, and this is so true. You see a bad behaviour, you raise that bad behaviour, you are the bad behaviour.
Yeah, exactly.
Your problem, you raise that problem, you're now the problem.
Yeah, absolutely
and
right.
That's the problem. That they're not looking at the source of that problem, they're looking at who brought that problem up. So people don't bring it up. Why would you?
No, but because it's easier to keep your head down.
It is. I mean, that's
Just
the thing.
keep your gob shut, your eyes closed, your ears closed, and ignore stuff. And if you ignore stuff, guess what? You're never going to be in any trouble. But I'm a bit old-fashioned, I'm afraid, and I would deal with things head on. And there's people that will be listening to this, and if you work for me, and you cause me a problem, I would call you in and deal with you there and then. There wouldn't be a PSD referral unless you've broken the law. I would deal with that as a management action, management advice, whatever, there and then.
That does happen.
And it doesn't. I know it doesn't happen. I know. I get phone calls on a regular basis. But anyway, listen. I'd like to thank you for your candour, sir. You're now running your own business.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is have a look at my website, xjobservices.com.
Yeah.
Okay, because you can advertise on there free of charge on a point of entry. There is a paid bit where you can put all your videos and all that sort of stuff. But have a look at that and stick your business on there, because it's a central repository for nice people, basically. Okay, and we've got other people that do medical training. But what do you actually do now?
I've got pretty much 3 roles, I guess. And so I mean, last week I was training close protection threat free course, so it's a advanced first aid course.
Yep.
For close protection people, subcontracting. The weekend I was on doing event work, so ambulance company I work for. That's really good. Enjoy that. And then the rest of the time I work for an office-based company. Really paid me very nicely, and lovely place to work. Really nice place to work. So
brilliant.
Yeah, it's all good.
Brilliant. Well, look, as I say, have a look at the website, and if I can help you, I will. Please send me your email.
I will.
I look forward to reading that. I will share this round. I've got some people I know in British Transport Police, and hopefully you'll get a response that is suitable. And
I think with me, if you don't mind, sorry, just very quick.
No, go on.
I was very disappointed, to be fair. I think what got me was the lack of interest. As in, I brought something to you. Now, towards my end, I was a little bit bulletproof because I could walk out any day because I've gone past my retirement date. Although I stayed on for a little bit. I stayed on purely because the pension was a bit better. I stayed on a few months longer. However, I could have walked out, put me through grief. I just walked out the door. I emailed the Chief Constable. I emailed an area commander, Chief Superintendent, and I emailed PSD, Special Standards Department. I didn't get a response for any of them 3 at all. Nothing. Now, the area commander must have got it because he got his deputy to have a meeting with me, although nothing come of that. So that was quite disappointing because, I wasn't just in 2 minutes and walked out the door. I didn't cause a problem, walk out the door. I never wanted this to be a problem.
No.
I wanted to raise issues. You're asking me everyone to raise issues. And then when someone's able to, because they can, but a lot of people and cops are serving now cannot raise issues. They've got mortgages, they've got careers. They cannot have their head above the parapet.
No.
They're not allowed to do it. Well, they can do it, but they're just going to get shot. So why would you?
Cause some problems, yeah.
I did. And what really, really, and I'm going to say the word pissed me off, that I got nothing. Yeah, at all, nothing. It was radio silence. And again, when I left the army, okay, so I was at 156 in Colchester. I'm leaving the army. My lieutenant colonel brought me in, literally. I'd only met the guy probably once or twice.
Yeah.
And he sat me down, cup of tea. How can I get you to stay? You're a good guy, really wants to keep you, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, I'm leaving, blah. And he said, look, here's my office number here. If any time you want to come back in the next 6 months, call me, I'll get you straight back. Done. When I left Hertfordshire, area commander, again, Chief Superintendent, got me in, cup of tea, sit down. How can we get you to stay? You don't want me to go. I've been there 5 years. I only walked out once. Again, when I left BTP, I got an email that basically threatened me. Yeah, there was a couple of bits on there quite threatening that I couldn't speak to media. I wasn't allowed to go do this, do that. I can't do this. What we're doing now, we're not allowed to do. Well,
who says you can't do it?
Well, exactly. Where is it? I can't do that. Do not give me 24 years and send me a bloody email. No one.
Can I have a copy? Can I have a copy of that email as well? So, have you still got it?
No, because it will work. I may have. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
Send it to us.
It's generic email. So anyone that's left BTP will get it. Okay, so speak to anyone that's left. They probably all got it. Okay, generic email, and the thing these things are, you must do this, you've got to hand this in, do that. Yeah, fair enough. I've got the admin, but when you actually read into it, there's a couple of threats in there. I didn't like that. I thought start, and I actually put it in my email, and you'll see it when I send it to you. Don't threaten me, okay? Don't threaten me. I'm my own person now. What are they going to do? Take me to court. You got me for libel. Okay, what have I lied about then? I haven't. So everything I'm talking to you about, have talked to you, is true. Okay. So you can't
exactly. You can't defame someone if it's not true.
Yeah, and the rest of it, you can't talk about operational stuff. Okay, what have I talked about? It's operational here. A couple of incidents, are they specific? Could you say it happened at this place at this time, that day, this family included? No. Don't threaten me. And that left a real sour taste in my mouth. The whole thing was just basically 24 years. Do you know what, mate? Do one.
Well, I'm going to conclude this interview now. And before I say anything else, is there anything you'd like to add, alter, or correct in relation to this interview today?
No, not at all. No. You've been amazing. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I hope that, it's been cathartic for you to talk it through. But I'm going to say cheerio.
Okay, bud. Thank you.
All right, mate. Take care. God bless. And I will speak to you soon.